International Association of Coaching. Home of the Coaching Masteries.
Good morning, friends. Good evening. Whatever time you are at this time, it's a distinct pleasure for me to be here. And my name is Luis Gaviria. I'm the president-elect of the IAC, being one of the many volunteers that every day try to make this world a better place. We have a wonderful experience today, and that is we're going to be talking about minority in coaching, from being coached to being a coach. And this is going to be presented by members of a group of visually impaired coaches in the IAC. This month and today, two visually impaired coaches from Hong Kong will be sharing their journey of being an IAC certified coach. They will cover their stories from learning coaching to serving another minority groups, such as other persons with special needs, ethnic minorities, and other underprivileged groups. They are to demonstrate today how and why to serve the community with coaching. And those are going to be, again, a distinct pleasure and an honor to present Coach Merrick Ho, a CMC, a certified mastery coach, chapter leader of Hong Kong, and also IAC Kwong, another CMC, certified mastery coach, director of community relationships in the Hong Kong chapter. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here, to present you, to honor the kind of work that you do. And Merrick, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to friends of IAC all over the world. I know that it will be in the morning for the American, and in the evening for the Asia, and in the afternoon for Europeans. So thanks for coming to today's learning circle with the topic minority in coaching, from being coached to being a coach. I'm Merrick, one of the speakers for today. And let me also introduce our another speaker, Mr. Isaac Kwong. Hello, Isaac.
Yeah, thank you, Merrick. I'm Isaac, and other coach with visual impairment. So later on, we will share something concerning our experience in coaching. So Merrick, maybe you can continue.
Yes, and we are also very pleased to have our board member of our Hong Kong chapter, Mr. William. He will be our technician for today, because me and Isaac will focus on our presentation, and Mr. William will be on the helping with the PowerPoint. Thank you, William. And me and Isaac, we are very honored to be the first batch of visually impaired coaches, both in Hong Kong and in the IAC global community. So both of us, apart from practicing coaching in business or other sectors, we also operate in social enterprise. And we have coaching projects with NGOs, such as the welfare sector and the education sector. So we will share about this kind of experience later on. So why do we have this topic today? In fact, the value of the IAC certification pathway is about self-paced learning. In other words, there's not a fixed path of how you get the certification or qualification. Everyone, every coach to be, no matter your background, your professional knowledge, or your personal particulars, you can set your own path in order to gain the IAC certification, no matter the Masteries practitioner or the CMC or the MMC. In other words, it's foreseeable that when time passes, more and more coaches from a very, very diverse background will enter the IAC family. So one day, you may find that you, as an IAC coach, will have very, very different background comparing to any other coach next to you. In other words, you may think that, oh, am I a minority coach? Am I someone very special? Then I shall define the word minority here. Minority doesn't mean someone apart from the mainstream. Rather, I would adopt the definition of the United Nations under the CRPD of the United Nations, which is, it says, minority is a form of the form of diversity and the beauty of the variety of humankind. So I encourage you, if one day you find that you are the minority group, do treat yourself as part of a diverse community of mankind, of humankind. And another point that I want to make is, apart from visually impaired coaches, which me and Isaac are belonging to, I know that there are different coaches of different backgrounds trained by IAC coaches. For example, I know that in different parts of the world, there are some coaches with other disabilities, and there are young people, very, very young teenagers trained to be coaches. And I observe this trend that IAC coaches are discovering the potentials of more and more groups of people. So through this sharing, I hope that our experience can encourage more coaches to look for potential, no matter potential clients or potential coaches of a more diverse background in order to benefit the whole coaching community. So what will be today's agenda? We will divide the sharing into 4 parts, which will last about 40 minutes. So I will tell something about how I experienced when I was a coachee. Then Coach Isaac will take up the second part, which will talk about how we learn coaching. And both of us will share our experience in our real coaching practice. And lastly, our coaching career. Because as professional coaches, we think that visual impairment should not hamper our aspiration of having coaching as our professional career path. So let's start with the first section about how I was being coached. I remember that was about 5 to 6 years ago when I was still a university student. That was the opportunity when some coaches in Hong Kong, they think of training up visually impaired people to be coaches. Then they went to a center for the visually impaired person and they look for their members and coach these people, simply coach these people. So they recruit, I think it should be about 10 visually impaired person to be coachee. And me and Isaac were one of them. I remembered when I had my coaching session with my coach, it was not that successful. In a way, when I reflect myself afterwards, I think that I am not really coachable, as a matter of fact. But when I asked myself, why was I not coachable? I found that there were a few reasons behind. So the first reason was I was bounded by social norms, cultures, and customs for visually impaired person. For example, as a university student, the society may require me to achieve a very high qualification because they think that only with very high academic performance can a visually impaired person find a successful job. Or they may have some fixed mindsets to visually impaired person on what they should be, what occupation they should be, or what type of people they should be anyway. So this situation had brought me to a fixed mindset when my coach asked me, how do you think about your future? How do you think about possibilities? I simply can answer nothing. That was my case. And the second reason behind the non-coachable Merrick was I found that the trust building between me and my coach was very, very difficult. I can recall myself as a philosopher during the coaching because I tried to challenge my coach backward on why he thinks like that, why he asked me that question. So we simply drilled it on the thinking process of him rather than me. So I query or I critique that as a sighted coach, he cannot understand the mindset of a visually impaired person. And he cannot understand the situation of a visually impaired person. So therefore, I was judging that all the things he had advised or he had asked me was based on his own context. So I didn't trust him. So that was the case when I was being coached. But although that wasn't a successful coaching section, however, after that section, the mindset of coaching or the way that a coach communicates with a person had inspired me to think of something new. And that was when, after a few months, when these coaches come back to that center and recruit members to be their students to learn coaching. So I enrolled myself to that coaching course and started to learn my coaching journey. And after few years of time, I got my master practitioner. I remember that was in 2017. And then I got my CMC in the year of 2019. So I shall make this part shorter here because I need to pass the time to Isaac and he can share more in detail why he wants to be a coach himself and what are our experience when we learned coaching a few years ago. Hand over the time to you, Isaac.
Okay, thank you, Merrick. Yes, this is Isaac. So yes, let me introduce something about myself. When I graduated from the university, I find that it's really difficult for a visually impaired person to find a job in Hong Kong. At that moment, I felt very disappointed about myself and I have no direction. What should I do? Luckily, the people surrounding me gave me a lot of support and they care about my feeling. And hence, I regained the courage to face these challenges. Therefore, although I am a visually impaired person, still I want to be a person who can support others. Therefore, I choose to be a coach. So as you may know, to be a coach, we should have a good listening skill. So do you think that as a visually impaired person, I can listen better than others? So actually, every day I need to listen to the surrounding and identify what is happening surrounding me. For example, I need to identify the signal of the traffic light. Otherwise, I am not able to go out by myself. However, hearing is not listening. And to be a coach, just listen to the fact is not enough. I have to practice more and to identify, for example, the emotion, the assumption, and any expectation beyond the wording said by the coachee. For example, I have coached a parent. In the conversation, he told me that he tried to find a suitable hobby for his daughter, and he don't mind that her daughter keep switching from one hobby to another hobby, and the only goal for him is to find the hobby that his daughter love most. So when he told me this idea, he is so confident. So I'm thinking, oh, it seems that the more important thing for him is just to find a hobby for her daughter, and there is no negative effects from frequently switching from one hobby to another. So only if I can identify this idea behind the wording, because he haven't spoken directly. Only if I identify his idea behind, I can ask some relevant questions so that he can understand himself more or think deeper and broader. Secondly, I would like to share another thing concerning listening when I was studying coaching. So because I am a visually impaired person, I am also regarded as an individual in a minority group. So within this group, we may have a lot of similar experiences. For example, most of the visually impaired person may encounter difficulties in their study, in their life, or in their work. When I was studying coaching, I have an opportunity to coach another visually impaired person. She shared something about work-life balance because she worried that if she worked too hard, her eyes condition will become worse and worse. Because I have the same struggle at that moment, I was in empathy with her deeply. However, at the same time, some suggestions and judgment came up to my mind. I will think, oh, why do you do this? And why don't you do that? From this experience, I recognize that I should pay much more attention, especially when the coachee shares some experience which is similar to mine. So I think although every day I need to listen to the surrounding, it's not necessary that I can listen well, and the only way for us is to practice and practice. So maybe now we move to another topic. After getting the qualification from IAC, now I'm a coach, and mostly I will coach some parents, students, and teachers. So do you think that if there is any limitation if I coach others without sight? Actually, visual impairments cause some inconvenience in coaching. For example, since I'm not able to observe others from their body language and their facial expression, the only way for me is to understand the coaching is to listen. I remember that I have been invited as an observer for a coaching session to provide comments to the coach. So at that day, I can only listen to, for example, the tone and the speed of the coachee. but I found out there is some contradictory behavior, because when the coach shares something concerning the unsatisfactory experience with his colleague, all the way he's kept smiling. So for me, it's quite contradictory. So if I was the coach that day, I will give him my observation and let him think about if there is any hidden message behind this contradictory behavior. Secondly, when providing group coaching, it's also difficult for me to distinguish coaches by their voice. So initially, I may ask some broader question so that I can familiar with their voice. Or in some case, maybe it's really impossible for me to distinguish them by their voice. I may treat them as a whole and ask them the same question. In the process, they may answer the same question one by one, although it's not a specific question for a certain coachee. They can still have a lot of interaction and inspirations. So I think even if there is some limitation when we coach without sight, we can still have some solution or some alternatives to solve the problems. On the other hand, do you think that coaching without sight have some advantages? So maybe I can share some experience with you. So firstly, so as you may know, most of the information acquired every day come from our eyes. So if I coach others without sight, I will be more concentrated on the coachee. So even if a friend, my friend is walking in front of me, I have no interest to talk with him or her because actually I don't know he existing. And secondly, because I'm visually impaired, I cannot observe the coachee by their outlook. So it also prevents me from over interpretation. For example, if a coachee is thinking seriously, he may have some facial expression. For example, he may frown like this. So if I overinterpret the facial expression, I may think that he may be very nervous, very anxiety, have a lot of anxiety, but it's not necessarily the truth. So I think there are still some advantages if we coach others without sight. So maybe here's some of my sharing. So Merrick, I know that you have also some experience for coaching some, for example, minority groups. So can you please also share with us?
Yes, thank you, Isaac. So as a coach of a minority group, I always think that if I am equipped with a skill, then there is the duty, I would say it's a moral duty that I use this skill to help others, because it is the society or the world who lets me have this skill. So apart from coaching general clients, for example, business people or normal people or the general public, me and Isaac also engage in certain community projects. So I will share two of them to you. I have once coached a university student of ethnic minority group. So in Hong Kong context, ethnic minority group usually means those people who are from Southeast Asia or from Southern Asia. So at this university student, I have a career coaching with him, and he is from Pakistan. So I asked him, what is your career goal? Anyway, what do you want to be? So he said he wants to be a police officer. In fact, it is very rare for a local Hong Kong student to have this answer, given that there's a similar education background or the major of that student. So then at that point, I alert myself not to be judgmental, because there must be some reason behind why when other local students, they want to be a doctor, they want to be a business executive, why this student want to be a police officer? So I tried to dig in and found that it was some cultural reason that makes him wants to have this career goal. So what I did was I tried to discover his potential, and I asked him about how would he go forward his career goals step by step, and that coaching session was successful. So my learning in this session with an ethnic minority coachee was not to be judgmental. Of course, as coaches, we always told, or we are taught to be non-judgmental, but especially when we are facing someone who has a very, very different background with us, this is especially important because it will guide your questioning or how you actually lead the coachee from one point to another. And therefore, having the alertness of the cultural difference is very important. So another case I want to share, in fact, it is an ongoing project which we and IAC are involving in. We are providing also career coaching to some university students, but this time they are with special educational needs. In other words, they are disabled students. So I had an experience coaching one student who has some learning difficulties that he cannot really focus, and he will move around physically. He will move around his head, his body when he is being coached. So from this experience, my learning was not to be affected by the appearance of the coachee. In fact, although that coachee was really moving around, but he was coachable. When sometimes I use some check-in questions or some question for clarity. If we use the 9 masteries, it would be the mastery 6. For clarity, I clarify his goal. I clarify the coaching process, and draw his focus back. Then he can concentrate, and he has very, very good reflection. And at the end, that coaching process was good. So for the experience when coaching disabled students or disabled coachees, my takeaway was to know about their characteristics, and especially some potential difficulties that they may have, for example, in their studies or their daily life. When looking at this experience, and I reflect back on my own experience being a coachee, which I mentioned in part 1, then I realized more how important this point is. Because when I wasn't trusting my coach, when I think that he didn't understand my situation, then as a coach today, when I meet people who are also disabled or with a different a minority background, I should also do some of the researches. No matter I try to really meet them, or I read it on the internet, or I talk with social workers or teachers who had interaction with this group of people and know more about them before I really do the coaching session. And upcoming in this summer, I will be coaching a new coachee. He is a person on wheelchair, and I'm looking forward to meeting him and bring him a good experience of his personal coaching and career coaching as well. I'm really looking for it. And after sharing these two experiences, I will carry on to part 4, which is about our professional career. So, as a visually impaired coach, I would say visual impairment, sometimes it is both an advantage and a disadvantage when we develop our coaching career and our coaching branding. So, in fact, as supplementary information, coaching is my first career, and I hope that it will be my only career. And when I look into the effects of visual impairment in my coaching branding and coaching career, what I think is both an advantage and disadvantage. The reason is that sometimes my coachee will emphasize too much on my visual impairment, and sometimes they would accept my coaching. If it's not that good, they will also accept it, and they will say, they will be very generous and say, oh, you did good, but in fact it doesn't. So sometimes it affects my personal my own reflection and my self-learning and my self-improvement. Sometimes coaches are too generous to me. And sometimes there are coaches who focus on my visual impairment. I noticed that some people in the outside world, when they introduce me to other coachee or to other business partner or whatever, they will say, oh, Merrick is a visually impaired coach. They will end it here. But as myself, I want them also, apart from highlighting my impairment, they will also highlight my professionalism. They will also highlight me as a career coach. They will also highlight me as an IAC CMC. So I am very alert to balance the identity of visual impairment and my professional qualification. In fact, in some cases, I don't even expose my identity as a visually impaired person. For example, in some phone coaching sections, because no accommodation needs to be made, I simply hide my identity of a visually impaired person until maybe some coaches, they tell me, oh, I have seen you before, Merrick. Then I would say, oh, that's me, that visually impaired person on television a few days ago. And I also am very careful about my professional image. Although we cannot see, there are a few tips that I think B and Isaac, we carry on or we follow. For example, when we perform face-to-face coaching, usually we arrive the venue quite earlier than the coachee. And we maybe for a coffee house, we find a table to sit down and we dial the coachee and said that, oh, we are there, what type of clothes am I wearing? So they are the person to find me. So I wouldn't need them to do extra work, because I think that it is not correct for a coachee to do extra work only because they are assigned it or they selected a visually impaired coach. We also quite concerned on our image. What I mean is what we wear, our outfits, our outlook, our maybe. So before today's session actually starts, I had some rehearsal sessions with my team and let them simply adjust how my head position. Where am I sitting too high or too low? I asked my team to help me to adjust. So this is how, as a visually impaired coach, we maintain our professionalism and professional image. So let's carry on to another part. So why is visual impairment sometimes an advantage? It's because from our own experience, because of our unique background, we have different opportunities that maybe normal coaches or maybe some coaches from a pure business background don't have. For example, me and Isaac, together with our social enterprise, we are having the third year collaboration with a kindergarten in Hong Kong. So we coach their teachers, we coach their headmistress, and this third year of collaboration, we coach their parents. We teach their parents on how to use coaching skills for their very, very small kids. I think that it is our unique background that help us or help our social enterprise to enter this field. Because if a normal coach without a welfare background try to enter the welfare sector, it would be very difficult. And by the way, I'm in the board of director of a local welfare organization with over 50 years of history. So I would say my own background and both of us, our background as visually impaired coaches, help us to bring new business opportunities. And here I would say it is a win-win situation in a way that it doesn't only bring us new clients, it also brings new clients to coaching. Because maybe before us, no one in Hong Kong had think of young parents of young children can use coaching. Maybe some of them may think of parents of a teenager can use coaching, but parents of young children can also use coaching. This is a new thing. So I encourage everyone here today, our dear friends of IAC, when you think you are a minority, you are having a very, very unique background, not similar to anyone else. I encourage you to try to think of what client can you reach? What type of coaching can you approach that no any other coaches apart from you can approach? Then simply approach to these potential coaches. Perhaps your coaching can benefit a new group of people that no one in the world has ever imagined of, that they can be benefit. So this is your niche. Simply look for your niche and work on it. And as I say, we have projects with different NGOs, different schools, and different groups of people in need. So Isaac, hand over the time to you to share some practical experience, how we actually conduct our projects in order to work with coaches in the team. Maybe they are sighted or visually impaired or who else. How do we work with them?
Yeah, thank you, Merrick. Firstly, I'm totally agree with you that we should keep our professionalism, because as a coach, we should work independently. At the same time, yeah, we still have some cooperation with our teammate. So I think to have a smooth performance or cooperation, the most important things are to communicate and have some adoptions. For example, in the workshop, since we are not able to observe the participants directly, and at the same time, it's not suitable for me to keep asking, oh, what are you doing? Have you finished? So in this situation, the coaches or the trainers with normal vision, they will have some brief description on how to progress and what are the participants doing. Therefore, I can know more about the situation and I will know what is the next step. Should I give any other instruction, or should we just finish that task? At the same time, since we are not able to read some graphic. For example, if I want to know the result of a questionnaire that we provide to the participants, so the presentation for example, the presentation of the Excel files should be in Word data. That means the numbers, but not a pie chart. So I think if we have communication clearly and makes suitable adoptions, we can still work very smooth. So as Merrick say, we have already collaborated with some coaches and trainers with normal size for about 5 to 6 years. And the second thing is, just like Merrick say, we have our uniqueness. So sometimes we can use the elements of visual impairment, and we put this element in the workshop. So we may in some exercise, we may require the participant to be blindfolded or to close their eyes. In some exercise, they need to do it without sight. So from the experience of using different senses to finish the task, they will learn a lot and have a lot of inspiration, because this experience is so special and so fresh. They can find out what we are doing if we close my eyes to for example to play some games or to communicate with others. So I'm also agree with Mary's sake. We can find out our uniqueness, and we can find out some and we can provide some special training or activities to the, for example, the teachers, the parents, so that they can learn more from our coaching and training. So that's my sharing. And today, as we just say, we are sharing something about coaching and minority. So I think it's time for you, if you have any other question on this topic, or if you want to know more about Merrick and me, please feel free to ask some question, and we try to let you know more about this. Thank you very much.
So our dear technical support, William, if you see something on the chat box, please kindly read it out to me and Isaac.
Yeah, so anyone have questions, please feel free to type in the chat box.
I would like to say something, Merrick and Isaac and everyone here in the room. that it's been such a powerful experience. I'm inspired by you too. And I just want to say that please count on me at a personal and a professional level as a peer within the IAC, because in the IAC, we just take turns trying to handle situations and things. We're all volunteers. And what you do is so meaningful that I really honor and appreciate what you are accomplishing here. That would be my first comment. And since in the IAC, we don't really have any hierarchy. It's not like anyone is a boss of anyone, because we're all volunteers. That's what it comes down to. So very inspired. Thank you so much. I would like to invite anyone else who would like to comment. That would be just wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
there's a question. Bonnie Chuan asked, Merrick and I said, what is your next step as a coach? Maybe Merrick first.
Yeah, I can answer first. My next step is that what I'm doing now is I try to build up a team, which the first thing I tried is now I'm being the chapter leader of IAC Hong Kong. And sooner or later, I hope that in coaching, I would have a team of my own. Again, like what Mr. President said, it is not a hierarchy, but what I mean a team is that we will really work close with each other to work on projects that we are really interested in, and every goal in coaching that we are wanting to a stable and a close team.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, the next step for me is to find some funding to train and other visually impaired coach, because for me, being a coach is very meaningful, because it's not only helping others, but also helping myself to understand myself, to do something meaningful. So now I have sent some application for funding to provide coaching training to other visually impaired person, impaired people, so that they can find a way out and have some meaningful work to inspire others.
That's great. May I ask a personal question to you too?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Merrick, besides being a coach, what else do you do?
I do also training and some experiential workshops that allows people to know more about visual impairments. And so I'm generally speaking, I'm a trainer in a way, but I particularly like coaching, the skill of coaching, because even in my training, in my debriefing of my workshops, whatever, I found that IAC coaching skills, they are really useful and applicable. Simply when you ask a question to your participants, it's very useful, even though it is not a coaching session, or I don't sit there as a coach, but it's useful as well.
Thank you, Merrick. It seems like we are colleagues in that regard. So I myself also train people, not in the the impaired community, but the rest of us have some other types of impairments. Believe me, you know how it is.
Yeah.
So being one of the impairments that we, the rest of the people, have is our inability to really connect with each other, and our lack of emotional intelligence that we need to improve so much. So let's go back to Isaac. Isaac, thank you so much, Merrick. Isaac, what do you do besides being a professional coach?
So because I love to explore in different aspects, before I love reading, therefore I am very happy that I have an opportunity to be a columnist, and now I keep writing something on the social media to share my point of views or some of my belief. And also I pay a lot of attention to mental health. So I have learned something about NLP, and I will also provide some wellness training to some working people, and now I tried also to learn to sing because it's also my interest. So I would like to find out my potential, and maybe one day I can train this interest to be in other careers. At the same time, I will try to be a good coach.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Isaac. This
Yeah.
has been so meaningful. And I would like to invite any other members of this gathering today to ask and to participate. That would be wonderful. We have a few minutes left. So please, who would like to share their insights on this beautiful and powerful experience we've had today? Let's see, anyone?
Thank you, Louis. This is Norris from IAC Hong Kong chapter as well. I spot a question from one of the participants, Johan. So maybe we don't want to lose it. Okay, so let me read out the question. So Merrick, Isaac, could you explain a bit more how you managed to overcome the many roadblocks along your career path?
Isaac, do you want to have a try first?
Yes, okay. So I think, yes, it's quite, it is not easy for me to find a way out of, for example, as I said before, it's very difficult for me to find a full-time job because Hong Kong people are not so familiar with visually impaired person. But at the same time, I think if we try to just like I say, if we try to explore in different areas, people may think our uniqueness. For example, why can I be a columnist? Because I have my own experience of being a visually impaired person. They want to know something of our daily life, or how can I overcome the difficulties. So if we keep on explore myself in different areas, I think there should be some position for us. And the second point is we also try to be active, because just like we can join different union, join different organization, because there's still a lot of opportunity for us to show our potential. So just like we now cooperate with another organization who help the disabled people to find a job. So if we try to be active in different organizations, we still can find some chances for us to contribute myself, and in the long run, we can have our own reputation. If others know more about us, we can get some working opportunities.
So I would try to answer this question with a mastery, the Mastery 9 support system. I would always ask myself, who is next to me? Who can I not to borrow, but to utilize his or her his or her to make me work better, no matter in terms of a career, in terms of teamwork, whatever. I think it's important, an important belief of mine.
That's just wonderful. That's just wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. I would like to comment on some of the notes in our chat, and thank you, Felipe Uribe, for that initiative to gather and to invite our friends from Hong Kong to be part of the learning process in Latin America. That was very thoughtful. Thank you, Felipe. Great initiative. And there are some beautiful comments here. For instance, hold on. Oh, by the way, Norris Wong says, well, may I also introduce another Hong Kong chapter board member, Ms. Miho Kuno, to you. Miho is a Japanese coach residing in Hong Kong. Welcome, Miho. So wonderful to meet you today and to be part of this beautiful community. Here, hold on. I saw further discussion and all that. And then Johannes Kern says, thank you, you too, for your inspirational sharing. Could you please explain a bit more how you managed to overcome the many roadblocks along your path? I believe that is being addressed. And Alec Kuhn says, Merrick and Isaac, great to hear both of you sharing and the vision of the near future. I believe both of you can have a brilliant impact and achievements. Keep going. That's wonderful. One question that I have here from Cyrus would be, Merrick and Isaac, what kind of new things have you incorporated in coaching during the period of pandemic? What comes to mind? Who would like to go first?
I will share an experience. In fact, it is a group coaching that I did with it's a career coaching again, but that was with some normal, not disabled or not any type, just normal local student in the university. So that group coaching was a tough job because I need to sit at home and facing the computer. And I have one colleague of mine to help me with some of the technical, but I would say at first managing Zoom or technical stuff was difficult to me. But anyway, it has passed and it has been overcome. So I think it's all right, I would say.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Merrick. Thank you so much. And what about you, Isaac?
So I think in this period, many of the coaches want to find want to change the working mode. For example, they would like to find out some freelance job or change their job. So in this period, I have some chances to provide coaching to them, and I think it's quite meaningful because in the pandemic, they may have more time to stay at home and think more about themselves. So I think it's just remind me that we should always have some self-coaching so that we know our intention, our direction. So I think it's the positive things in the pandemic period is we have more time to think about our vision.
That's wonderful, Isaac. Thank you. Thank you so much to you too. There was, I missed a comment from you, Randy, from Hong Kong. She said she had to go, but she says, I will connect with Merrick and Isaac for further discussion. Thanks all for the meaningful event. By the way, I have hearing loss for both ears, 50%. May also have collaboration in the near future, which is great, And anyway, yeah, there is another comment from Cyrus. Technical stuff are new distractions for us during these 2 years, too. Yes, that is true. So anyway, we've come to the end of this beautiful event. I would like to have everyone, if you would, please, hold on, let me do something here. If those assisting, those participating would be able to turn on their cameras so we can take a group picture, that would be wonderful. So please, let's give ourselves the best smile we can. Hold on just a second. I'm going to take a couple pictures to send to our dear Carla Cofino so she can put it in the Facebook, in our page in Facebook. So let's smile. Yeah, let's look happy. Hold on just a second. I don't know if this is working for me. Oh man, it's not working for me. Charlie, would you please take that picture or someone else and send it over?
I have taken now.
All right.
You,
Keep your smiles.
Now.
Did it. All right. So thank you so much. And everyone, on behalf of the rest of us around the world, volunteers helping other people in our lives. So let me send you a big hug, a very respectful and warm hug. And thank you, Gillian Carlotti, for being there, for taking care of everything, for being in charge of so much things. I appreciate you and I thank you. And also you, Charlie Medina, everything you do, we value it so much. So anyway, Charlie, if you're ready to put the video, would be great. And thank you, Bonnie Chan, for being here as well.
Thank you so much to all.
The International Association of Coaching. Home of the Coaching Masteries.